You are in the Temple of the Rants, where I rant about whatever my $15 a month plus patrons want me to rant about. You can get one of these by becoming one of those. This one is for Scratch and Quit, who says Made in Abyss or Chasm Calypso. Now, I'd never heard of Chasm Calypso. I searched it. It seems to be like a webcomic that is also about a big hole. Characters falling down a big hole. The artwork didn't look very appealing to me, so I can't see myself reading it. But Made in Abyss, I did talk about Made in Abyss quite extensively. Obviously, there was the Made in Abyss weekly podcast I did with Best Guy Ever, sharing my thoughts about the first 7 episodes and then like a recap one at the end. But I mean, in general, the anime at least, I haven't read the manga, but it was pretty good. It was a little bit of a letdown for me because of the fact that the first 3 episodes were so incredibly strong, and just the production was crazy amazing. There were so many like unique animation cuts, so much life and detail in the setting, and seeing all the locations in the OP had made me really hype about like this as more of a exploration adventure series. And while those elements, kind of remained strong throughout the series, it ended up getting really bogged down in the pacing in the midsection. The production quality significantly diminished as it went along. We started getting speedline action scenes and like kind of janky looking places, and like not spending as much, well, spending a lot of time in smaller parts of locations as opposed to really exploring the entire floor. Like it seemed as though the appeal of the series was to be, we're going to go down to the next layer and then see all kinds of unique stuff, really experience the ecosystem of this area, learn about all the crazy monsters and stuff that's happening there. And we get a bit of that, but it was more like they'd show up on a floor, maybe spend a few episodes in like one location there, have a dramatic scene or dramatic occurrences, and then just continue along. So yeah, it was just like the pacing was a little weird, the production was a little faulty, and then it also didn't make that much progress. I think it actually went further down the hole than I expected it to by the end of the first season, but like narratively, it felt like we were kind of just at the end of the first chapter, so to speak. Obviously the manga is still ongoing, and the anime, I don't know if it'll ever receive a continuation. They did like make a couple compilation films out of it, so it's not as though the IP was unhealthy or anything. So maybe it could happen. But yeah, when it was at its best, it was incredibly good. I also think that the darkness of the series was just dramatically overhyped in a way that I don't really understand. Like, I don't know if it's just because the main characters are younger that people made such a big deal out of the fact that like some dark things happen in the story, but I mean, if you've read Berserk or like watched Game of Thrones or consumed any dark media that is extremely popular and known by most people, Made in Abyss by comparison is not that dark. It's not that fucked up. There is some imagery that's maybe a little grotesque here and there, and some of the concepts of what happens can be pretty fucked up, but it's not like exceptionally more so than normal. I don't know. Maybe I blew it out of proportion in my own head just by people saying it's dark and fucked up. To me, means that it must be more so than other things I've already experienced. Maybe those people haven't experienced as many dark things, or maybe just anything dark they would say that about. But nonetheless, those kind of expectations going into it, the way the show was hyped, definitely colored my perception of it on my initial viewing, as I had to kind of adjust my expectations and realize, okay, this is not nearly going to be as crazy as people are making it out like it's going to be, But it was entertaining. It was pretty engaging. It picked up more in the later episodes, had some emotional scenes, and it definitely left me wanting more, left me wanting to go read the manga. And of course, when I say these things, people are going to be like, oh, but the manga gets even darker not long after the part where the anime ends. Yes, I know, I've heard it all. I've heard literally everything. I know everything. I've heard every possible conceivable thing anybody could have to say about Made in Abyss. I know spoilers. I know everything. I just don't think it's that fucking dark, But maybe that's just me. When I think dark, I think The Wire. Like that's a show I can't watch because it's so dark and depressing. Like this is not that. And maybe part of it is that it's a cartoon, so it's I can't necessarily, it doesn't have the same grit to me. It's not based in reality. It's a fantasy world that at its core is still kind of a fun adventure. I greatly appreciate the background art, the aesthetics of it, the music, especially. Yeah, pretty good show, pretty memorable. Would definitely go back and give it another shot. Maybe I'd enjoy it more the second time when I don't have so many expectations clouding my judgment. I generally tend to like shows less when I have to watch them weekly because then if a mediocre episode comes out, it really feels like a huge lull when you're only watching one episode a week, as opposed to marathoning a show and just not even thinking about the relative quality of each episode that hard. So yeah, I definitely want to give it another shot and to read the manga. And that's what I got to say about that.